Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Chayataku. Turn it up. Turn it up. Way up. Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Chayataku. Good, good. Kahamara Swarupa Kahasanatan Kahadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kaha Mora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj Eka Kale Kota Gela Goranataraj Pashane kuti bo mata anale pashibo Goranga gunera nidhi kota gele pabo Se sabba sangira sangi je koi lo bilas Se sangana paya kande narotamadas Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Okay. He who brought the treasure of divine love. Let me put this on. Seems pretty cool in here. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Hare Krishna. Just for me, Prakash. You know how to work this thing, right there. Put it up to 73 degrees for me. Is it off? Don't turn it off. It's on, right? It's off. Why is it off? Okay. 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 One more thing. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to read about Madhavendra Puri, then we'll read Srimad Bhagavatam. Before Lord Chaitanya appeared, he sent his eternal associates like Sri Advaita Acharya, Sri Jagannath Mishra, Shachi Mata, Madhavendra Puri, and Ishvara Puri to earth. Sri Madhavendra Puri took initiation from Sri Lakshmipati Tirtha in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. He had many disciples, but Sri Advaita Acharya and Sri Ishvara Puri were the chief. In one way or another, all the Vaishnavas in Bengal and Chaitya Mandal, that's Jagannath Puri, were connected with Sri Madhavendra Puri. After Lord Chaitanya came, many of his disciples joined Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Many of Madhavendra Puri's disciples joined Lord Chaitanya's movement. And here's a quote from Vrindavan Das Thakur, probably from Chaitanya Bhagavatam, doesn't say. Madhavendra Puri's body was completely full of divine love. So were those of his followers. He displayed uncommon love of God. Seeing a dark blue rain cloud, he would fall down unconscious. Day and night he was intoxicated from drinking the ambrosia of Krishna Prem. Close quote. After making an extensive pilgrimage of Bharata Bhumi, India, he passed his life in Vrindavan and Orissa. He began the restoration work of Vrindavan that Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis continued later. Wandering from grove to grove, remembering Radha Krishna's sweet Vrindavan pastimes, Madhavendra Puri would faint in ecstasy. In a dream, while Madhavendra Puri was in Vrindavan, Sri Gopal appeared to him in a dream and ordered him to uncover himself, which was in deity form, and install him atop Govardhan Hill. Okay. All right. Madhavendra Puri celebrated Gopal's installation with an Annakuta grand festival offering a mountain of foodstuffs to Krishna. Annakuta means a mountain of foodstuffs. Generally, this is another name for Govardhan Puja. You notice how in Govardhan Puja, there's a mountain of sweets, everybody eats, no one is denied on that day. So you read it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you'll see all of these villages nearby. They would empty out all their storehood, and they would give it to Govardhan, and there would be a big feast day after day. There were these Annakuta. This Annakuta festival, also called Govardhan Puja, is one of the most important Vaishnava festivals in Vrindavan, in India, and around the world. Now, around the world, because of Srila Prabhupada's efforts. The original Gopal deity, known as Sri Nathji, is now worshipped in Nathdwar, Rajasthan. Madhavendra Puri introduced the conceptions of Madhurya Bhava, conjugal love, into the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. Madhavendra Puri sowed the seed of Prema Bhakti, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became the towering tree, dropping honey-sweet fruits of Prema upon everyone. He also revealed Viraha Bhava. Oh, wait. He also revealed Viraha Bhava, the mood of love relished in separation from God. His branch of the Madhva sect distinguished itself by this ecstatic love of God. It has become known as the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. In Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya showed an intense mood of viraha bhava. This increased unlimitedly when the Lord heard verses from Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, the Krishna Karnamrita. Yeah, thanks. Got it. The Krishna Karnamrita, the Gita Govinda, and love poems of Chandidas and Prajāpati. Lord Chaitanya's viraha, or separation, begins with a single verse spoken by Madhavendra Puri, his Param Guru. Param Guru means the guru of his guru. Ishvara Puri took the role of his guru, and Ishvara Puri's guru was Madhavendra Puri. And the verse goes like this. He has a different translation here, so I'm going to defer to the one in the Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita translation. And here's how the verse goes. Now this is the same meter as the verse number 4 and 5, verses number 4 and 5 and 6 in the Shikshastika. Nadanang nadanang nasundari. Now it can be chanted in two ways. Nadanang nadanang nasundari kavitang va jagadishakamaye. Like that, where you stop after each line. But really there's only two lines. So it really goes like this. Nadanang nadanang nasundarim kapitang va jagadishakamaye mamajan manijan manishade bhavata bhaktadahoy tukitrahi. And so Madhavendra Puri's verse sounds like this. Aidina dayadanata he matadanata kadava lokase vidayam tadaloka katadam dakitam brahmatiking karomyaham. I'm going to read a few verses before this because Krishnadas Kaviraj really praises this verse. Okay. All right. We'll do that another time. It's not. I don't find it right now. And the translation to this verse is, O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura. This is spoken by Srimati Radharani. She's in Vrindavan, he's in Mathura. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? Okay, so he gives a little summary of that. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj says that just like the diamond Kaustubha jewel is the most precious amongst all rare valuable jewels, this shloka is the Rasa Kavya, the best verse in the entire treasury of Rasa poetry. Actually, this verse was spoken first by Srimati Radharani herself. It was Radharani's pathetic cry to Shyama Sundar, who had gone to Mathura, leaving her alone, desperate in Vrindavan. Radharani's mercy brought this same verse from the mouth of Madhavendra Puri. Reciting even a few words of this sloka would tear open the door of Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, making him swoon in ecstasy, falling unconscious. Feeling intense separation from Krishna, Madhavendra Puri constantly chanted this verse when departing this world. Krishnadas Kaviraj says that with this verse, Madhavendra Puri teaches devotees how to achieve Krishna prema by cultivating intense feelings of separation from Sri Krishna. Gaudiya Vaishnavas accept that this verse expresses the essence of the mood of separation. So before I read the final few paragraphs here, there's a pastime surrounding this verse. There was a devotee, a disciple of Madhavendra Puri named Ramchandra Puri. I think all of his disciples were named Puri, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a little tinge of, anyway, he had a problem, and you'll see what happened. So at the last stage of his life, Madhavendra Puri was lying on the bed, and Ishvara Puri was doing all services for him, taking care of him, and reminding him of Krishna. And Madhavendra Puri was chanting this verse. He would repeat this verse again and again in the mood of separation. And the tears were flowing, and he seemed to be in great suffering. So Ramchandra Puri came to visit his Gurudev at his final moments, and he criticized him. He said, you should be in Brahmabhuta stage, Prasanatma. What is this? You're crying and you're in such anxiety. What's going on? And so Madhavendra said, get out of my sight. If I'm seeing your face when I pass, I don't know what's going to happen to me. So he kicked him out. So Ramchandra Puri, his Bhakti creeper was kind of destroyed by that, but he was still respected because he was a sannyasi. He came to Jagannath Puri, And his purpose was to criticize Lord Chaitanya. So he knew about all the great feasts and everything you read about in the CC. So he thought that was a way to criticize, that they're eating too much. So he would actually cook the feast for the devotees and keep feeding them, and then he'd criticize them, you're eating too much. And he even criticized Lord Chaitanya because he found little ants in his room, sweets, too many sweets you're eating. But Lord Chaitanya, he respected him because he is his God. He's his God uncle. In other words, he's the god brother of his Gurudev, Ishvara Puri, on the level of his spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya reduced his eating, and all the devotees were knocking their heads together. He says, "When will this guy leave?" Because they want to make big feast for Lord Chaitanya, have him eat. So after some time, he eventually got tired of that, and he took off from Jagannath Puri, and all the devotees said, "Oh, great, we can go back to normal." But he had ruined his devotional life by criticizing his spiritual master. So the last few paragraphs here. The Gaudiya Sampradaya teaches that worship of Radha and Krishna in separation represents the highest level of devotional service. At this stage of realization, the devotee feels completely vacant, feels that the world is completely vacant in the absence of Krishna. This is from the Shikshastika Yugayatam Nameshena. A moment without Madhava feels like a millennium. Yugayatam Nameshena. Lord Chaitanya always swam in the ocean of Divyonmada Mahabhav, the mad and ecstatic emotions shown by Radharani in the Brahmara Gita. This is the song to the bee. You read the Krishna book or you read the 10th canto. When Uddhava comes, he comes to bring a letter from Krishna. Radharani is distracted. She's distracted by this bee, and she starts addressing the bee as if he was the messenger from Krishna. So this is called the Brahmara. Brahmara means bee. It's one of the 4 or 5 Gopi Gits in the Bhagavatam. So in this verse, Madhava Puri discloses similar emotions, this madness of love and separation. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas conclude that the monsoon shower of ecstatic love exhibited by Lord Gauranga during his manifest pastimes began with Madhavendra Puri. It then came through Ishvara Puri, who played the role of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. Madhavendra Puri's Samadhi is in Remuna, Orissa, near the temple of Chirachora Gopinath. So if any of you are interested in memorizing that verse, which would be nice, it's Madhya Lila, chapter 8, this one is Antya Lila, chapter 8, verse 34. Antya 8:34. Even if you don't want to memorize it, you can maybe look at it and chant it today. Okay, now we'll move on to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 3rd day of March 2023 in San Diego, we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 6th canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, 5th chapter, Nārada Muni cursed by Prajāpati Dakṣa, 42nd verse. Yan nas tvam karma sandhanam sadhunam grihamedinam kritavan asidurmarsham vipriyam tavamarshitam Yannastvam karma sandhanam sadhunam grihamedinam kritavan asidurmarsham vipriyam tavamarshitam. Go ahead, chant. Yannastvam karma sandhanam sadhunam grihamedinam kritavanasi durmarsham vipriyam tavamarshitam. Dvijamani. Yannastvam karma sandhanam sadhunam grihamedinam kritavanasi durmarsham vipriyam tavamarshitam. Ross. Yannastvam karma sandhanam sadhunam grihamedinam kritavanasi durmarsham vipriyang tapamarshitam yat, which, naha, unto us, tvam, you, karma sandhanam, who strictly follow the fruit of ritualistic ceremonies according to Vedic injunctions. Sadhunam, who are honest, because we honestly seek elevated social standards and bodily comfort. Grihamedinam, all those situated with a wife and children. Kritavanasi, have created. Durmarsham, unbearable. Vipriyam, wrong. Tava, your. Marshitam, forgiven. Translation. So, Daksha is continuing to complain to Nārada Muni, and he's going to curse him in the next verse, which we won't read. Although I live in household life with my wife and children, I honestly follow the Vedic injunctions by engaging in fruitive activities to enjoy life without sinful reactions. I have performed all kinds of yagyas, including the Deva Yagya, Rishi Yagya, Pitra Yagya, and Nriyaga. Because these yagyas are called vratas or vows, I am known as a grihavrata. Unfortunately, you have given me great displeasure by misguiding my sons for no reason to the path of renunciation. This can be tolerated once. Remember, he did it twice. The first time is 10,000 sons. He tolerated that. Purport. Prajāpati Dakṣa wanted to prove that he had been most tolerant in not having said anything when Nārada Muni, for no reason, induced his 10,000 innocent sons to adopt the path of renunciation. Sometimes householders are accused of being grihamedis, for grihamedis are satisfied with family life without spiritual advancement. Grahastas, however, are different because although grahastas live in household life with their wives and children, they are eager for spiritual advancement. Wanting to prove that he had been magnanimous to Nārada Muni, Prajāpati Dakṣa stressed that when Narada had misled his first set of sons, Daksha had taken no action. He had been kind and tolerant. He was aggrieved, however, because Nārada Muni had misled his sons for a second time. Therefore, Daksha wanted to prove that Nārada Muni, although dressed like a sadhu, was not actually a sadhu. He himself, Daksha, although a householder, was a greater sadhu than Nārada Muni. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So what we are seeing here is an example of logic that is based on the basic fallacy of material life. And that fallacy is that even if one knows that you have a spirit, soul, and you're conscious, you still identify with the body. Now, Daksha was a responsible person who was given a great responsibility to populate the universe. So he's not just some schmo off the street. And yet, he is giving all these justifications that I'm also a sadhu. I'm a sadhu because I'm living responsibly in family life. I perform all this list of yagyas and all of these different things. So he hasn't picked up the essence of the Vedic wisdom, which is that any life in this world is a punishment, is part of the punishment for rebelling against Krishna way back when, time immemorial. And if your aspirations are at all involved with creating some situation in this world that you think may be auspicious or pleasurable or successful, then that's the root of all ignorance. Because the only real aspiration we should have is to regain our original nature as servants of Krishna and to get out of this relative world, which is a world of suffering. Krishna is certified as such. It's described in great detail in the Bhagavatam, and if that doesn't convince you, just read the newspapers. There's just, we're living on a knife edge now of utter destruction. I mean, when I was growing up, there were various movies that I saw about atomic war. I forget some of the names now. But what always happened is there's some crazy person who was given a great responsibility when he was sane, to manage the nuclear arsenal or something like that. But now, due to the tensions of the job or something, he went nuts, and he's causing a nuclear war. And that's actually the situation we're in. By the scientific invention, they've got these weapons now, which can obliterate all life on Earth, basically. Certainly human life. And generation after generation is handed these weapons, and using them is suicidal. All these different caveats, but it doesn't matter. Having that power itself is an intoxicant. It's intoxicating, where you think, I have the power to destroy the entire Earth. And you look at the history since the atom bomb went off in 1945, we dropped it on Nagasaki and Hiroshima unnecessarily. The war was coming to an end. But that's another story. But there have been dozens of instances where the world was almost blown up due to some mistake or some crazy person who almost got charged or whatever. It's only by Krishna's grace that we actually survived this long. So it's all based on the fallacy that if we manipulate the material energy in such a way, we can become strong and we become invincible. Meanwhile, time, the inevitable time, Krishna's time, right, is cutting you down personally, and you have to leave the scene. So it's a complete illusion that any kind of aspiration to succeed in this world, like he gave this whole list of yajnas, and all of them are meant to appease the demigods or do this or that. So you have a better situation in this world, on this earth, or better even go to the higher planets and enjoy Indraloka or Chandraloka or higher lokas. But all of that is within the material world. And eventually you die even in those lokas, even Brahma dies. And according to your activities and the consciousness you have cultivated, you'll take another birth. And that birth is going to be somewhere in the material world. So you're still subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. And more than that, you're subject to degradation of your consciousness, so you go down, 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 you even lose the human form of life. It's like a long horror story with many chapters. So that's the now there are also, of course, in mode of goodness you can be performing these sacrifices, but in goodness, like I said, the mode of goodness is not good enough. We have to have the mode of pure goodness. Pure goodness is called Shuddha Sattva, or the Vasudeva state. Why is it called the Vasudeva state? Who can say? Kind of obvious, because Vasudeva appears. If your consciousness is in this state, Shuddha Sattva or Vasudeva, then Krishna will manifest in your consciousness more and more. So, this is the fallacy of Daksha, and it will culminate in him cursing Nārada Muni. Now that's not good. Here's Nārada Muni, this great soul Vaishnava who travels, all over delivering Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad and the hunter and now these 11,000 sons. So he's a great soul, direct disciple of Lord Brahma, his son, and he's to be revered and worshipped and followed, not to be cursed, So that's not going to be good for Daksha. But that's the result. So you can see how such an important aspect, like we've been doing the Bhagavad Gita classes for so long, and how Krishna very systematically presents the science of devotional service, and the first thing he presents is your real nature as spirit soul. And as I always say, if you realize that, if you believe it, that you're a spirit soul and that you had many lives before and you'll have a life in the future, then that should change your entire calculation of what's important to strive for in this life. And if you're still confused, just listen to the Brahma Sutra. the Vedanta Sutra. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now then, having come to this human form, you should inquire into Brahman, the absolute truth, beyond the realm of matter. And this is repeated in the Bhagavatam. I just heard the lecture. Prabhupada gives these wonderful talks. This section of the first chapter, first canto, second chapter, beginning in text 6 and extending to text 21. There's a whole lesson there. And if you follow a lesson and you come out the other side and you're ready to hear and chant Hare Krishna and strive for going back to Godhead. So it all begins, what is real Dharma? Dharma is that which is meant to take us to our actual goal. So if you're following some Dharma or some practice that has as its actual goal improving your material situation, either in this plane or some higher plane, then you've missed the whole point. Because any situation you get here, as Krishna says, okay, you may worship the demigods. What is it? I was Trividyamam Soma Papa Papa Jigyarishtra Swargatim Pratayante Te Punyamasa the Sudendra Lokam Ashnati Divyan Divideva Bhogan. Here he's describing the standard practice and motivation for worshipping the demigods. Tetam Bhuktva Swarkalokam, it's a Trividyamam. The Trividya refers to the three Vedas, mostly the parts of the Vedas that deal with the Karmakanda. You've heard the Karmakanda section. All of these Jagyas he just mentioned here, Rishi Jagya, Deva Jagya, Pitra Jagya, and Rid Jagya. These are all described there for material elevation. They drink the Somaras, they worship me indirectly, and their aspiration is to go to Indraloka or somewhere and enjoy godly delights. So the next phrase he says, yes, if they succeed, they do it right, you have to do it properly. Otherwise you can get the opposite result. If you don't chant the mantras, that's why it's very important to chant the mantras correctly. Otherwise you don't get the full benefit. So it says, Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. You go to Swargaloka, heaven, and you enjoy. Vishala means vast, godly delights. Good, that's great, but you're only in the first line of the verse. Then it says, Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. But then your pious credits, are used up. Chine punya means it becomes exhausted. Punya, piety. Martya lokam vishanti. He doesn't say you come back down to earth. No, he says you come back down to the world of death. That's how he described it. Mortals, martya, notice the same word as in English and Sanskrit. And therefore, Krishna says, Evam tuhi dhamma manupapanna kadagatam kamakama. By finding this three dharma, means that the three Vedas that deal, the section of the Vedas that deal with the karmakanda, you just go and come. You don't make any progress going back to God. You just waste time. Waste a lot of your time. So Daksha is like that. He is thinking that I've been doing all these jagyas, I'm also a sadhu. And now you've ruined my life, you interrupted my duty now by taking my 11,000 sons. Once is okay, I'm the sadhu, I'm forgiving you. But twice, no. So he curses Nārada Muni. Nārada Muni says, oh great. And Prabhupada will say in the next, I'm not going to read the next purport, but Prabhupada says, famously, I've also been cursed not to be able to stay in one place. When Prabhupada wanted to stay in one place, he always said, okay, now I'm in Vrindavan, I'm going to just write. But he always had, from the letters coming, this urgent problem, and he always felt he had to keep going. But he still continued with his books. Anyway, so what do we glean from all of this? Is that we have to have our understanding of who we are, why we're suffering here, and what the final goal is to ameliorate all suffering and enter back into the realm of eternal bliss and knowledge. Now the irony is, the paradox is that to succeed in this process, our aspiration, and we're just reading, just a sidelight, as Maharaj would say, we're reading these 20 aspects of knowledge in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You're all invited. And one of those aspects of knowledge is very important, Janma, Mrityu, Jada, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam, which means birth, old age, disease, and death. But dukkha, dosha, and darshanam, one should keep in mind the faults or the pains of birth, old age, disease, and death. In other words, that should be an impetus for getting serious. If you don't get serious, then Maya, this is, the siren song of Maya, well, take it easy. Just enjoy a little bit. But as soon as you get into the enjoying mood, then you're covered. There's these two potencies of Maya, Avaranatmaka Shakti and Prakshedatmaka Shakti. Avaranatmaka means the covering, covers your knowledge. The mood of enjoying the senses, gross or subtly, covers your knowledge of who you are, what your real goal in life is, that you're spiritual, everything. And Prakshedatmaka, she throws you down. Probably love to quote this verse from the Prema Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit. It says, Krishna Buli Seji Bhoga Vancha Kari Nikatasta Mayatane Japatiya Dhari. Very, very graphic, and I think we can all relate to it. So he says, forgetting Krishna, because one wants to enjoy the senses. Krishna Buli means to forget. Krishna Buli Jeev, this Jeev who forgets Krishna, Bhoga Vancha Kari. Bhoga Vancha means, Vancha we know, Vancha Taru, Vancha Kopalaru. Vancha means your desire. You desire Bhoga, you desire to enjoy the senses. Then when that happens, Maya, who's right there, you don't have to call her from afar. Nikatasta, she's right next to you. Japatiya Dhari, she throws you down. It's like tackling on the football field, You get tackled and you get pulled down. And that's the throwing and the covering potency. You're covered when you forget Krishna because of Maya, because you're open to her siren songs. And you kind of get covered, and then she throws you down into a world of suffering. And you could even lose the human form of life. Very graphic, description. So how do we defend against that? By association with great souls like Nārada Muni, or Nārada Muni's representative, who's Srila Prabhupada. That'll be very clear in the next verse and purport. That the shelter from this, the protection against Maya, is attraction to the spiritual master. Just like we sing at Guru, how does it say? Shri Guru Charana Rate Ese Uttamagati. Right? Which means attraction for the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the best means of advancement. Now why should that be? Because if we can actually become attached, this is the same thing that Kapila Dev talks about, attachment. You have to transfer your attachment from Maya to the sadhus. Well, then what will happen? You'll listen to them. If you respect and love someone, you have attachment, you'll hear them, and they'll be able to affect your consciousness. If you don't respect or have any affection for someone, you'll start arguing with them, right? That's what, or you won't, or you'll ignore. Maybe you just ignore. You said, "Oh, that's a Hare Krishna. So I'll keep walking until I get to the bar." My favorite example. So they're unfortunate. But if you can get a little attraction, you appreciate the wonderful qualities of the bona fide guru, and you also are the object of mercy, because they're ready to help us. Just like Nārada Muni, he's looking for souls who are open to his teachings, And he finds someone like the hunter, and he preaches just in the right way. First he approaches, at least don't kill them half, so that they just writhing in agony on the forest floor. So, my father taught me that way, So the next thing Nārada Muni does, by his mystic power, he showed him those animals that he killed, ready to take their revenge on the path to hell. This path is explained in the teachings of Kapila Dev. It shows it. So then that got the hunter's attention. So how can I get free from that? He says, well, you have to trust me. And that trust will be shown by you breaking your bow. You don't have to worry about your maintenance. I'll provide you. But I'll give you a way that you can become purified. So he saw the mystic power, and he respected Narada, listened to him, did what he said, and he was delivered. So that's the key, is opening up the channel, our hearts, to the instructions and example of the great souls like Nārada Muni. And in the modern day, often it means opening one of Prabhupada's books and reading it with interest, rather than just curiosity, like that, but real, letting it affect us viscerally, so that it changes our way of thinking about ourselves and what's important in life. So the Haryasvas and Sharalasvas, of course, the Sabalasvas were they were preached to on the level of your brothers are very exalted. And if you follow them, you'll be able to associate with the Maruts. More or less, he gave them away of just going to see their brothers who are now advanced by this time, and of course they're brothers, so that was his technique. But for the Haryasvas, he did this whole riddle. You remember that? There was this whole song that they sang, and they picked up on it. They're so smart. So with that knowledge, the knowledge undergirds and supports your will and your decision to follow the process that may be a little painful, a little austerity, but you're convinced and your faith is strong and you can overcome the obstacles. Otherwise, if you don't have any knowledge about who you are, or what the goal is, or why you're suffering, or all of these things, then it becomes you become a dilettante. I tried that. Like that. So that being strong in reading Prabhupada's books, attending the classes, following the program, so that you start to experience the benefits of Krishna consciousness, and the benefits are like twofold in most cases. Degrees of that detachment from things which would normally attract you, and attachment to Krishna, to chanting the holy name and everything related to Krishna, the devotees, prasadam, And so the more that those two things happen, the more serious you are in the matter of following the chanting, the routine, the 4 regular principles, the quicker you'll experience the benefits, and your faith will become stronger and your determination will become stronger. This is all explained in that those 16 or so verses. From first canto, second chapter 6 to 1 to 21. And the basic process is hearing, chanting and hearing the holy name, and also hearing all of the the shastras and the classes by devotees who were just speaking from the books and like that. So that's what Nārada Muni does. He didn't take it as a curse at all. He said, that's what I'm doing anyway, I don't have a house somewhere that I could go back to. He's traveling, and of course, he did go to see Krishna's house in houses in Dwarka. That was another thing. But basically, you'll see he appears in so many places in this. It's described, right? He delivered the whole family of Swayambhuva Manu. So he preached a little differently to each of those. To Prachana Barhi. He gave him another allegory. You remember that? Puranjan. And then to Dhruva, he gave him a way that appeared to be that he could get his kingdom. And he did get it, even though by that time he didn't want it. But he got the darshan of Vishnu. And with Prahlad in the womb, he preached in a certain way. So this is the genius of the great preachers. They present Krishna consciousness just suitable for time, place, circumstance, and candidate, so that they're most likely to absorb it. And Prabhupada did that when he came to America. And we can also learn how to do that. So, we had a little reading in the beginning. Are there any comments or questions on some of these points? Janardhan Prabhu has either a comment or a question.
I just need a little help wrapping my mind around 11,000 suns.
Yeah.
I know that they're demigods and they have exceptional ways of doing things, but is there anywhere in the Shastra where it describes how that happens?
You're thinking of the mother. That's what I was thinking. I don't know. It's certainly not there in the Bhagavatam. I mean, it's always sons. I mean, Gandhari had 100 sons, which itself was pretty incredible, but 10,000 sons. I wouldn't want to speculate. We can try to do some research on it if you want, if you're interested.
I do remember reading a little something about one demigoddess having children, and it came out in some big pot of little tiny pods. And they like almost instantly, within moments, they grew up almost to full grown.
Sounds like more feasible than 9 months. Oh, then they have twins. If you get 10,000.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate how that could be. So,
yeah, whatever information you can find.
Yeah, it's not the ordinary thing, for sure.
Yeah, let me know.
All right. Please.
Thank you for your message. Would you agree with me that your lecture seems to resemble Balaram's?
Oh, is it a repeat?
No. Various different
Well, the
important things.
verses are, they're related. I mean, maybe that's why.
Yes. Is a streamline of similarities within the attachment. Would you agree that knowledge, transcendental knowledge, is the key to attachment, to detachment?
There's two things that are the key. One is the knowledge, and the other is the method of putting that knowledge into action.
Yes. Now my question is, I have a question because so many emphasis on back to Godhead, and an approach to it seems to be magnanimous.
Magnanimous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we understand. Now, is going to enter into the cave of Brahma a more higher realization before one ascends to Krishna consciousness?
Nope. I'm not sure what you mean by the cave of Brahma. You're talking about the Brahma Jyoti? We call it Brahma Jyoti.
Yes, a higher state of consciousness, right?
Nope, it's not. The highest state of consciousness is when you're back to God with all the variegatedness and the activities and everything going on there. The Brahman realization is preliminary. Even higher than Brahmanization is Paramatma realization of the Lord in the heart. But there's no Leela there. It's not fulfilling in terms of your desire for loving exchange with the Lord. But then beyond both of those is realization of this Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with all the form, qualities, activities, and everything we read about in the spiritual world. That's the highest realization that there is.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I think we can adjourn, if that's okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Madhavendra Puri.
So that might take you a little while to figure out.
What, your question?
Process, yeah. But I am